welcome back to the 21 Convention 2018 of Orlando, Florida. Our next speaker is a writer, personal trainer, and ballet dancer. He's also the Twitter bash brother of Ed Lattimore. Without further ado, please let me welcome to the stage Alexander J.A. Cortes.
Am I mic'd up? I'm mic'd up. Well, that's actually pretty bright. How are we doing, gentlemen? All right. I'm not going to do a high energy thing. I just tend to talk fast and loud, so I'll try to check myself. So subject matter, archetypes of masculinity. Clicker. Oh, shit. Understand who you are as a man and the forces that shape you. So to dive into this, so fundamental question, I like to frame this because I always like to have context. As personal trainer, you have to know what you're talking about. So what's the issue facing men today? What does it mean to be a man? I get that question a lot from guys who are young and guys that are old. And we're living in a socio-political climate where you guys all see that being rewritten. Masculinity is toxic, toxic masculinity. We need to have vulnerable masculinity. We need to get outside the man box. And a lot of that's just bullshit. It's bullshit and fabrication. If you're trying to find an answer to masculinity, you have to ask yourself, what are the eternal values that have worked throughout human history, that have proven themselves to work? What is tried and proven? What's new and improved tends to fall apart pretty rapidly, and for good reason. It's trend-driven. What is something that has lasted for the entirety of being on this planet? And my alternate theory, so to speak. So the problem with modern masculinity, if you were to characterize it like, is there such thing as toxic masculinity? Yeah, there is. It's called feminism. It's men who have been raised by the feminine imperative, who have had mommy girlfriends and their mama's boys, and they think that the role of a woman is to give them sex, and my wife, my good virginal wife, she's going to be so good to me. That's a toxic man because he's weak. He's weak and he doesn't understand how the world works. And as soon as he has his illusion broken or his needs not met, it's like a spoiled child. He gets mad and upset and he hates everything that he can't have. And he always hates the men that has what he would like to have. So that's toxic. So archetypes, what are they? Archetypes you could consider, the term comes from anthropology. Jung made it popular, but it's an anthropology term. It's basically a very deep version of stereotype. We have stories that we tell ourselves every single day of our lives. You all, well, maybe not all of you, but you guys hopefully had a father. If I ask you what is a father, without describing your father, you're going to give me a set of characteristics. You'll give me a story, so to speak, of what you think a man is as a father. If you had a brother, what does it mean to be a brother? What does it mean to be a son? What does it mean for a woman to be a mother? There's a story with that you have formed over the course of your life. Yeah, it starts in childhood and it develops through stages as you age. So these are this examples of famous kings. So King Solomon, Kingdom of Israel. Genghis Khan, that's Charles Martel of France. Stopped the Muslim invasion in, let's say, 800 AD. Genghis Khan, probably the world's most successful man in terms of, what would you call it? Well, we were talking about this earlier. In terms of supremacy in regards to breeding strategy. Super alpha male. I think he's responsible for like 5% of the population of Asia to this day. He won. He won evolution. So you have these guys throughout history, and we look up to this. We look up to this. Genghis Khan, I always like to use this as an example because in probably like the perfect, I don't say perfect, the most idealized male world, you'd be a conqueror, you'd have unlimited access to women, everyone would know your name, you would be feared and respected, and you would have the entirety of the world before you as your domain. Now, that's not going to happen, and if the world was that way, we'd all be murdering each other right now, but there's an ideal that gets attached to that, and there's a reason why we remember somebody like him. There's a reason why we venerate these men, because they embody these very heroic qualities. There's a reason if I ask you what is a hero, there's an attachment to the idea. So there's more examples. Achilles, Leonidas. Again, these things capture us for good reasons because these ideas, these archetypes, they are built into our DNA. You could consider that your behavior is downstream of your biology. You have evolved to be what you are today. And if you take, I'm Jewish, so I don't usually interject my faith too much, but if you take a biblical perspective that you are made in the image of God, you are made as something to be esteemed. And these images, or these men like this, I've had guys complain, well, that's a really high standard to follow. So fucking what? You need a standard of something if you're just yourself. Now it's probably not that impressive to you, otherwise you wouldn't be here. Real talk. If I always ask people this, if you were to, would you be happy with yourself if you died as you are right now? No. No, don't ever say yes to that. If you're saying yes, you're at your deathbed. So more archetypes. Now, in modern society, we've moved out of the king era, obviously. We have archetypes that exist in the modern world. Bruce Lee, martial artist, he was sort of a magician, so to speak. We know him for his philosophy, which is based in Taoism. But he embodied a certain archetype. He was a warrior. He was refined. He was a gentleman. But also, he was tough. You wouldn't fuck with Bruce Lee. Kobe Bryant, I'm not a sports guy so much, but Kobe Bryant, he was a great athlete. What are athletes in the modern world? They're substitutions, in a sense, for war. We get to watch men compete with each other in a physical setting. We get to watch a game be played. We get to experience the highs and lows of victory and loss. And we buy into these things because archetypes run through all these things. That's Robert Plant. So I'll talk about the artist archetype later on. But men that are artists, men that are perceptive, women flock to this guy. I mean, women will flock to all these men, but artists, I always like to point out to men, since we tend to, a lot of times when we talk about red pill, blue pill, what's the meme? Chad Thundercock. Yeah, I always crack up when I see that guy. He's 6'12" and he deadlifts 900 pounds, and he's huge. And we like to think, well, that's the alpha guy that women are drawn to. Women are drawn to men that make them feel something. And artists make people feel things. That's why we listen to music. We'll get to that later. And then you have these sorry sons of bitches, which are new males. And this is an archetype. This is an archetype because you all laugh when you see this because you know what this means. You know what this means. You have a story already that you've told yourself about this. And this is what we're trying to, exterminate, honestly, if I'm being serious. We don't want these people reproducing, breeding, or doing anything at all. These are the guys that watch like My Little Pony porn, and they work at Google and YouTube, and probably in Twitter too. And then you have again, this is an archetype. Yeah, why? Because this is an affrontation against God, but there's a story to this. There's a story to this of how somebody ended up this way, and it's a sad story and a fat story. So, like I said, archetypes are the deeper, more proven version of stereotypes. So a general stereotype, black people are good athletes. Don't argue with that because it's genetically true, and I can show you the data, and it will upset those of you who have, those proclivities to be upset by it. It's true. People that are African origin, they tend to have a higher incidence of just athletically coded genes, so to speak. Like I say, Ashkenazi Jews are more intelligent because they are. The average mean IQ of an Ashkenazi Jew is like 120. They have very high verbal IQ. I'm an Ashkenazi Jew. So there's stereotypes. Those are stereotypes. But then within those cultures, if I go to anywhere in the world, the cultures have archetypes. And archetypes always end up being pretty similar. So I wanted to do this again for context. The word itself, English language derives from Latin, derives from Greece. The term, this is interesting, and I want to point this out, which means first molded, or the beginning. So when we're talking about an archetype, when we get to the subject of male archetypes, the idea is not for you men to try to be a perfect man or a perfect person. None of us are perfect. What you're trying to do is take a pure quality and use that as your ideal to follow. And that's what Plato gets to, or that's what he got to, about 2,500 years ago, roughly. Pure mental form. So these are things that end up being imprinted into your soul. If you're in the process right now of trying to reintegrate yourself, you're struggling with your old blue pill mentalities. You're struggling with, how do I reaffirm myself from this kind of red pill perspective within relationships? Or how do I just take everything I've learned and coalesce it into something functional? That's soul level work. And that's why it's hard. It is. Whether you dismiss the idea of there being a soul or not, that's you taking apart your psyche piece by piece by piece. And you're trying to put it back together again to something that functions well, where you don't have to think about all these things and be stressed by them. So, as I said, broken down further. So, human mind, you're always turning things into archetypes, as we saw. It's a pure story, and it doesn't mean morally perfect. So, it's the representation of a thing. And that's Plato. And Plato, I always like, so there's lots of stories about him. He was actually a very good wrestler, and he was known if his students ever got mouthy with him, he would actually wrestle them as a form of punishment. He was an older looking guy. It's like, you want to fuck with the old man? Let's go. And he usually won. He usually won. People usually got their asses kicked. So moving on to sort of the Jung 101. I'm not going to go too much into Jung. I know Rollo doesn't like Jung, but Jung had some ideas that were pretty good. His problem was that he loved to take what I think was very practical stuff and make it overly metaphysical. Don't make the pragmatic too complicated for people. So he realized some interesting things in the study of dreams. So your dreams are sort of your unforced thoughts of how you think. And he realized in talking to people and interviewing them and telling them, like, what are your dreams? Tell me about them. You can lie about your dreams, but you can't lie about who you really are. Even in lying about what you dreamt, you're still revealing yourself. And his big thing that he realized was that in studying dreams, studying mythology, studying anthropology, all cultures on Earth, they all share these archetypes. And henceforth, when you're trying to change yourself, you can apply these universal archetypes to your own personality. They apply to everybody. So again, to reiterate, human mind turns, like I said, needs to have characters, qualities, and archetypes. So someone asked me, the reason why I want to go through the explanation, I had a guy ask me the other day, is there such thing as making your own archetype and rebelling? I'm like, there's an archetype of being the rebellious bad boy. I'm like, you're not going to make anything new with this. Even if you want to be the person that sort of defies, you think, logic, there's an archetype for that. And that didn't render at all. Okay, well, whatever. So the quote I liked from him, you're not what you think, you're what you do, which I think I spoke to at the core. He was a practical guy, although he tended to screw that up, actually talking about himself. Another aspect to this would be archetype. And this is a deep one for you guys, especially for those of you who are struggling with the red pill digestion. So this was his idea, and I'm going to run with it. Within your psyche, you have an anima. So you have, every man in here, you have an internal model in your mind, in your brain, as to what you think a woman is. You have a whole story that goes with that. And it goes from your mother, from your sisters, from your girlfriends, to the woman that cheated on you with, to the woman you cheated with. It's everything, every experience you've ever had with a woman that gets compressed and that gets turned into a character, so to speak. And that is what shapes your perception. What happens for you guys who are, or were, let's say, very blue pill invested with the ego investment, your anima was something like, I'll be very stereotypical. It was a woman is a woman that you white knight for, and if you do all the good things and you follow the script and she rewards you with sex and she loves you and she's virginal and pure and I'm going to have a perfect relationship. And then at some point or another, that just got blown out the fucking water in your face. Maybe you were married for a while and then your wife lost interest in you, dead bedroom. But whatever it was, it broke you. It broke you of this. Your anima, because of how deep it is within you, that breaks everything else attached to it. Everything else. And for most men, the central point of their existence is not themselves. It's a woman. It's a woman or it's women in general. So your mental origin point when you're trying to reorient yourself, you cannot make it this. That's why a lot of you struggle, because you still have that, whether you realize it or not, that blue pill mindset where the god of your life is female. That fucking Ariana Grande song, which is, anyway, I'm not going to get into that. Okay, God is not a woman. Okay, the central power of your life is not your subservience to what you would like a woman to be in fulfillment of that. It's not. That's an aspect of who you are. It's not the whole thing. The animus, likewise in women, they have a model of what a man is. And most women today, which all women are hindbrain, let's say red pill in their motivations, but they can be blue pill in their idealizations of what a man is. Women get disappointed by men just as much as we get disappointed by them. So women have the same issue. They have an internal male model in their head, and that shapes their whole development, that shapes all their desires, that shapes what they look for in a partner, and that can blow up in their face as well. And this is the classical girl with daddy issues. For those of you guys, this is a very familiar trope. A woman grows up with no father, no male love, no male approval. What does she look for? She looks for a daddy. And I would attribute the current trend where girlfriends like to call their boyfriend daddy. That's a girl that had a weak father, and now she's getting that sort of paternal love / sexual love fulfilled by the guy she's dating. I find that a little weird to be called daddy. Some guys like being called daddy, but then I could say they have issues too. Or maybe I'm the one that's fucked up. I don't know. Maybe it's all those things. So like I said, you're screwed up for a reason. So when the opposite of what you are changes, it changes who you are as well. That's the meta lesson in that. So yin and yang. So if we take animus anima, within each one is a pure drop of the other. And if that gets, like I said, poisoned, well, then you're going to be screwed. That's why a lot of guys continue to have bad relationships regardless. Moving on from there to understand the male archetypes. Like I said, I'm going to lay a lot of context for this. So men have two biological imperatives, meaning what these are meaning things that you have to do, otherwise you are fucking useless. You have to protect yourself. So you protect yourself first, and then you protect others second. In a primal situation, if this was 100,000 BC, if you are physically weak, you are dead. Okay? If you are infirm, you are dead. If you were born specially abled, you're dead. Okay? You're all dead. You have to be strong. You have to be able to defend and offend against what would offend you. That's a requirement that is inarguable. There's no counter to that. Well, no, maybe, but no. Okay? In a primal situation, if you can't protect yourself, you're gone. All of your ancestors were pretty tough motherfuckers. They were, because they had to be. Otherwise, you wouldn't have survived. Following that, you have to be able to provide for yourself. You have to be able to hunt. You have to be able to cooperate. You have to be able to get along with your gang, with your group of guys, to reference Donovan. And that is how men create things, through mutual cooperative effort. You're all here today because this is a cooperation. You're not just sitting on your laptop reading stuff. You wanted to come here because there's an appeal in learning from men within the sense of a group, from learning from men and being able to network and interact. That's how men prosper. Now, within modern life, unfortunately, you can provide for yourself and you can be wholly incapable of protecting yourself. And there's a physicality aspect to that and there's a health aspect. Now, I have a cousin of mine, he's 19. He's a pre-diabetic. He's 19, he's pre-diabetic, he's obese. He's a really tall kid. He's like 6'8". So him being obese, he's around like 290. And he literally, it's a stereotype. He sits on his laptop all day, but it's true. And he plays Fortnite, and that's all he does. And then he gets in chat rooms or forums, and I don't know what he talks about. That's all he does. He can't protect himself, honestly. He's taken care of by his mother, and he lives in his room. I mean, he still lives at home, but he can't protect himself. Maybe he'll find means to provide for himself, maybe, but the protection aspect isn't happening. It's not. Now, the hijacking with this, what I call the feminine imperative hijacking, is this is what makes a man, but who's first? You're first. It's not the woman. You're only a man if you fulfill the above in service for me. That's what gets hijacked. And that's what, for the guys who are super blue pill, that's what they're invested in. And, they get to punch their woman, you were nice, I was nice to you 10 times card, now fuck me. They've fallen into this. Now, within a traditional model, within human history, and even predating monotheism, Christianity, Judaism, Islam, if you're a man, you're going to suffer, because that's how that works. May your suffering be in service to God, in service to the highest form of yourself. So you're going to suffer because you are living for some sort of ideal. That's the only way that life is going to make sense, because life is going to be painful. Modern world, you can alleviate your pain a lot of ways. Not modern world, before I'd say even 1900, you had to go through a lot of shit. You'd have children, you'd have kids die on you, half your offspring be dead. Your wife could die on childbirth. They happened all the time. Family members could die. Average life expectancy was lower. If you made it past 3 years old, you might live to be 70. Or you might be used as a beast of burden in war, and then you're dead on a battlefield with 100,000 other people, and you just got corpses everywhere. You're going to suffer. So it has to be for something. And hopefully it's for yourself, and like I said, for yourself, and it's for the ideals that you're following. It's not just for the woman. That said, however, within this model of society, there is a certain form of valiance, which can be sort of knighthood, that doesn't exist anymore. It's only within a very patriarchal society that sacrificing yourself for a woman, for family, is considered, very admirable. And it still is today, but it also gets cast aside very readily. Any man that's ever been used by a woman, even though he gave everything for her, you know what that feels like. Because you thought what you did meant something, and you found out it didn't mean anything because your usefulness was used up. So Disney Prince and Princess. This is actually a good movie. This is actually a good movie because it tells you every hypocrisy about everything in the modern world, but it shows you the primordial archetype of what women want from a man. So, and it's also one of my favorite films. It is. So I remember seeing this. I was like 3 years old, and it doesn't make sense if you analyze it from modern perspective. So it's a beast. Obviously, he's a beast, but he is essentially the feminine fantasy of a man, where he is untamed and he is wild and he is uncivilized and he is savage. He's savage. Women love violent men. Anyone that's ever been a fighter, anyone that's ever been, if you're a guy where you've been hyper aggressive. I was in jail for 2 months when I was 18, 19. It was a big joke getting out that you got like the prison pussy bonus, because as soon as you got out and you went back to the neighborhood and, oh yeah, I just got out of being locked up. Oh my God, really? Fuck yeah, I fucking killed a guy actually too. I killed 5 people. I didn't fucking feel bad about either. I'm a fucking psycho. Oh my God, really? Yeah, really. Okay, women love psychos because they're like this. Because that's a guy who he listens only to himself. He listens only to himself. He doesn't need you, and in not needing you, he can do whatever he wants to you. And not needing you and doing whatever he wants to you, you can have any kind of experience you want with him, versus the guy that needs you, in which case he's already below you. This is a female fantasy. This is a woman in an idolized, pure form of beauty before she gets wrecked by the world, and she gets to take the most psychopathic, narcissistic, beastly guy, literally, and she gets to turn him into a man, and by loving her, he is made into a human being. That's the female fantasy. So it's a good movie. It's a good movie for that reason. Now, with this, though, unfortunately, is that Disney kept making more movies, and they got more screwed up as they went along. It led to what I call Disney Prince and Princess archetype, that's the modern archetype today, where the girl, she has a checklist of 25,000 things that she wants a man to be, and she's checking off boxes. And then as she gets to 30, she hits the wall, and 35, that list gets shorter and shorter, until it literally became, I have a female client of mine. I've known her now for 7 years. So I'll take a sidetrack. So her list, when I met her, she was 30. It was this running list of, I want a good Christian man, and he looks like this, and he's really tall and really attractive, and he's going to treat me this way, and I want him to make this much, and this is what I'd like my house to look like, and I already mentioned my wedding is going to be, and this went on and on and on. You get the idea. You want to know her list is today? Last time I talked to her, I just want somebody that's nice to me. I'm dead serious. That's her list. I just want to meet someone that just is nice to me. That was literally her words. How things change. So, with this thing with the archetypes, obviously alpha fucks beta bucks, there is something to this, and this was an idea that I want to talk with Rollo about sometime this weekend since I was exploring it. There's something to this sort of protector impregnator archetype versus provider archetype. So the guys that excel at protecting, let's just say athletes, physically gifted, those are the ones that almost by default get made into alphas by women because they're tall and they're the guy that a lot of guys hate, where my girlfriend got stolen by the high school quarterback kind of thing. Everyone, you see that guy, like, if you're not that guy, it's a lot of guys, that piece of shit, he thinks he's fucking cool just because, he gets female attention and I don't. You're idiots. Of course he gets female attention. Why wouldn't he? Okay? Because women make that into an alpha. Because when you're 12 to 20, what's the thing that you look for? Whatever stokes that budding sexuality, which is going to be someone that's primed to breed with. And then, provider archetype, then you get a little bit older and you realize, okay, that guy that can be with anybody he wants, he's choosing me, I'm not choosing him, since that's the real alpha dynamic. The alpha picks, the woman doesn't pick, betas pick, or betas get picked by women. So then you go to more of like the provider archetype, and ideally you get both. Ideally you get the asshole psycho who's crazy and psycho to everybody else but you, but that's not really how things typically happen. So with this, wrapping this up to the sort of segue, these things, protect and provide, they get formed to a fundamental set of characteristics. So leadership, you have to be able to lead yourself, and there's an archetype to that. Strength, violence, these two things are always tied together. For those of you guys who suffer from anxiety and you're generally nervous, you want to get out of your own head, go do violence. Go do jujitsu, go box, go Muay Thai, go find a serious gym where you will pay for your overthinking in literal pain and blood. And I'm dead serious. Okay, if you're someone, you're prone to anxiety and you overthink things, okay, if you're on the floor and I've got you locked up and I'm choking you out, you can't really overthink then, okay? Just because you're suffocating. You have an air choke and your brain is losing oxygen flow, and your overthinking will cease pretty quickly. That's why, like I said, I'm dead serious. It's very beneficial to your mindset. So leadership, strength, violence, intelligence. Men are intelligent, obviously. Brotherly love, romantic love. So lover is one of the archetypes. And I think an aspect of this that's overlooked, that guys can see this and they immediately think of like, okay, you mean like Playboy, like seduction, like PUA, like game. There is an aspect to that, there is. But there's also an element to this of one, artistry, which is being able to recognize beauty and create it, and also loving your fellow men, because men are cooperative. And one of the things that I think guys overlook in regards to attraction dynamics is that if you really want to attract women, be a man that other men look up to. That's why women like guys who are authority figures, or the man in the uniform. It's not just the, he's successful and he's buff and he's clean cut. No, that's a man that other men look up to. And that implies status, that implies power. So you want to be cooperative that way. Lover means a lot of things. So to give this some examples of this, Gilgamesh. So this is an old Mesopotamian story. He's one of the first kings of history, so to speak. And I'm not going to tell you, like, if you want to go read this, you can. But it's an epic tale. But he embodies essentially all those qualities of running through leadership, running through using his strength, running through intelligence, running through, eventually in his old age trying to find the meaning of life and whether, love is substantial. Not in the sense of just a woman, but what does it mean to have appreciation? Conan the Barbarian, warrior archetype. There's a reason why this movie was successful. There's a reason why, because Arnold, there's a reason why his physique gets idolized. He looks like an ideal. So this is an artist rendering of Merlin. Magic is an interesting thing. So I realized this, like I was watching this, I might have been in high school. I was watching like Chris Angel, Mind Freak. So he's like super emo looking, pierced, very pale, like kind of buff but pale, doing magic. Women are just fascinated by that. And I'm not going to say go learn magic is game, but it was amazing to me. I was watching it and he had chicks just constantly, they just were absolutely enraptured with him. What is it about magic that fascinates people? You're playing with reality. You're not just playing with reality. If you can play the reality, it means you understand reality, which that means you can make somebody experience something they've never experienced before, which going back to what is truly compelling for a female, experiential feeling. Women base their life off of what they feel. So a magician in that sense, that's attractive. And with this as well, going off of the, bouncing back to like the masculine aspects, magic, this is a metaphor for learning natural laws, value, time, production, creativity. Mathematics today is a modern form of magic. If you know math and you know math well, you can create things that can make the world and destroy the world. There's immense power in that. Lover, so Casanova, so he was a real guy. He wrote a story about, a biography about his life, which I would suggest reading. Basically, he went around Europe, decided that his goal, his way of being was that he wanted to live for pleasure, and he absolutely did that up until the day he died. Very fascinating. James Bond, very classical, kind of like the mixture of you wouldn't call him a king because he's not a leader, but sort of that, sort of like a warrior lover where he goes around, women want to sleep with him. He would clinically classify as pretty much like a psychopath. He's had people die in front of he's gotten women killed all the time. It's always a classical trope of James Bond films. The girl dies immediately in the first 5 minutes, and he's like that was a good lay. Shit, okay. She's dead. I got her killed. Like, wow. I'm gonna go seduce somebody else. No, but why is that attractive? Because it is, because he doesn't care. Because he lives for himself, he leads himself. So, King, Warrior, Magician, Lover. I recommended this book last year, and it was a really big hit on Twitter. I still get questions about this day. So the guys that came up with it, Robert Moore, Doug Gillette, they were Jungian psychologists. You can agree what that means. So like I said, my personal issue with Jungian psychology, some of it's really good, but it's just complete and inaccessible trying to read. I'm a pragmatist. I like to give people useful tools. With training, I've been a personal trainer for 9 years. You can't lie about muscle. You can't lie about strength. Your biceps got bigger or they didn't. Your squat went up or it didn't. Your deadlift is 500 pounds or it's not. There's no bullshitting that. So if something's going to work, I want to see it work. And when it works, I know that it works. The reasons why it works, I don't necessarily care so much about that. There's always different theories as to whether something is good in how it works or correct in how it functions. So this is useful. Okay, there it goes. So this is from the book. And this speaks to the fact that if you're a man and you feel you're underdeveloped in these qualities, why? Your development always starts in childhood. Now, ideally, ideally, I might come around to the side. Ideally, you learn how to lead yourself, and you end up becoming, they call it the king in his fullness, which terminology, that sounds cool, whatever. So you learn how to lead yourself. You learn how to be a hero, so to speak. You learn physicality. You have that confidence. So you learn intelligence. You train yourself that way. Love in its fullness, and you have a healthy relationship with your parents. You have a healthy relationship with femininity, and you're able to enjoy life, and you're a relatively complete man in that sense. What happens in the modern world is that this tends to go sideways. So you can have a guy where if you get raised, let's say, by a mother who gives you everything, you can end up sort of being like the tyrant. High-chair tyrant is the term they use. You end up being the guy where, as you come up, you're sniveling and weak and demanding, and everything revolves around you. Or maybe you're the guy where your mom yelled at you all the time, and your dad was weak and he got yelled at all the time, and all you know how to do with women is just get down on your knees to ask for things, and that's all you know how to do. That's your whole relationship with them. And then same thing in physicality. For some guys, let's say, who I always saw as bodybuilders, physically they're massive looking, but they have almost like a bully and a coward personality because they're undeveloped here and here and here. And what you'll find as a man is there always will be things that appeal to you. Those of you gentlemen who are in leadership roles, who are CEOs, you're in charge of others, you have an aspect of leadership where you take care of people. And then there's those of you who maybe you're very much cop in your intellectualism in a good way. And there's something about magic in a sense, like programmers, I find have this a lot. They want to create things. They want to find a problem and create a solution for it literally. Then you have the guys that are warriors. Warriors tend to know they're warriors. Jocko Willink is a guy that's very popular. He's gotten very popular the last few years. I remember listening to a podcast with him. He was talking, it might have been Tim Ferriss, talking about the SEAL selection process, why he wanted to do that. He said he was like in high school, 15, 16. He saw advertisements for being a SEAL. He decided he's going to be a SEAL. That's it. Done. What if I can't make it, and doubt and fear? He said, fuck it. He decided he was going to become something, so he became that thing. Now and I use him as an example because guys oftentimes like to mimic some of his suggestions, not in a bad way, but mimicking something doesn't make you that thing. You all can wake up at 4:30 a.m. if you want. It's not going to make you him. He is the man that he is because of who he is. What you are trying to become, you need to find one of these or find these qualities within yourself and take them out of you. It can't just be copying somebody else's model and thinking that then you'll be that by way of mimicry. Oh, we're good. So characteristics of a king. This is going faster than I thought. This is awesome. I'll be able to have time for questions. So king, this is the classical quality where every guy, regardless of who you are, you have to do this. You lead yourself. You are your own mental origin point. You write your own story. Whether someone else had a story for you, whether you were following one, you take control of your script. You're the one that has authorship over that. And I've said this many times, not all men are destined to be leaders of men. I don't consider myself a leader of men that way. I have an influence, I have a following. I keep to myself day to day. I am very private that way. But I am responsible for myself, and that's how I live, because that is what is necessary to survive and thrive. So you always have to lead yourself. King is led by ideals. So an idealized version of himself and his potential. So I call this positive narcissism, since that gets, anytime you go about changing yourself and you start leading yourself, you'll oftentimes be accused of that. You've become narcissistic, you've changed, you're an asshole now. I remember I've friends I've known for a while, like, you just become more of an asshole as you've gotten older. I'm like, you say that, but I'm happier with my life than you are with yours and more successful than you, and you're complaining to me. So who's doing life wrong? No, maybe I'm fucked up. I don't know. But I call this positive narcissism. So you have to believe in the ideal form of your own potential. You have to. Otherwise, where are you going? Where is your life going to go? When we talk about believing yourself, I remember hearing that as a kid. I'm like, it's kind of lame. As I got older, it's the belief in yourself right now. It's the belief in what you can be. And the characteristics of a king is that you are leading, whether you're leading a kingdom, whether you're leading a nation, whether you're leading yourself into a future that is aspirational, that is above your current state. You are becoming more. So, and I mentioned this earlier, performing deeds to win a worthy woman, only found in the context of patriarchal society, with sort of the king-queen model. Every king needs a queen. And then the current model, this is the white knighting. That's synonymous with being used by a woman. That's not the way to be a king, obviously. So how to cultivate this? For those of you who have sons, I've had lots of guys ask me this, like, what can I do if I have kids? You got to give your sons opportunities to lead. And even if you're a grown man now, you have to put yourself in positions where you can take control and actually be in charge of a situation. That starts with yourself, and maybe that eventually progresses into working with other people. Make your own decisions. This is where goal setting, short-term long-term planning, all that comes into play. If you're feeling uncertain with your life within any given stage, start making it more sequential. Apply some linearity to your chaos. Otherwise, you're just going to be lost in your own spiral. I mentioned this Sigma male. I had a guy message me that. He's like, "Hey, what do you think of Sigma male?" He's like, "You're a Sigma male." I'm like, I didn't heard that like 2 days ago. I guess solo male that's fully in charge of his own life. I might be wrong with that one, but I thought it was a good way of characterizing it. So, lead people, start businesses, companies. Again, leadership of people at the highest level. One of the characteristic that's always associated with being a king, with leadership, there's a certain level of status to it. And you find this out if you're like solo entrepreneur, or it's an entrepreneur, you're somebody that works for yourself, you run your own business. There's a certain level of status that comes with that. People will respect people where you are no longer subservient to another man, but you are subservient to essentially your own decisions, your own mistakes, your own goals. There's always respect that comes with that, and there's a form of, I would say, positive status that comes with that as well, since most people are never going to be in that place. And it's not necessarily a bad thing. Not everybody's meant to work for themselves. So moving on from there, king, warrior. The big thing with this, probably the one thing, if I reduce this presentation down to nothing, lift weights, guys. Physicality, okay, physicality. Physicality, athletes, like I said, a modern incarnation. Violence, there's an aspect of honor. You honor your body because you develop it, and in developing it, you recreate how you were seen by others. There's a level of self-respect there. I want to say lifting weights. What happens is when you lift weights is all these lessons we talk about, whether deep work, self-improvement, progression, you get to actively apply to something. You can make something move, you can press something forward, you can pull something back. The active metaphor of having weight over your chest and having to press it off you know what it's like to have to bring out some internal aggression. Having weight on your back and having that literal pressure pushing down to the ground, are you going to stand up when you get knocked down? Same thing with going after what you want. If you have a barbell in front of you on the floor and there's hundreds of pounds on it, that either goes up or it doesn't go up. Do you have it within you to go after what you want? Yes or no? It's right there. It's a big test. I've worked with powerlifters for a long time. Guys will get crazy wild when they're in the gym and they're attempting max effort lifts. And sometimes people, they look at that, it's like, oh, do they really need to act that way? Well, maybe they're getting a little unhinged. But what does that represent? That represents their entire life. That represents their whole life, because you can make that stupid and simple sounding, but in reality, that's a man. He has taken himself and he has applied himself to a literal numerical goal that is going to test every ounce of his mental, physical, neurological resolve right now. And you don't have to get that into it, but on the level of development, yeah, you go lift some fucking weights. I'm not going to expound on that any more than I need to. The characteristic of a warrior, probably the last one, discipline. So this applies to everything. But the warrior, what happens if you make a mistake? You're dead. There's no do-overs. You don't get to you don't respawn. You don't get to turn off the console. You don't get if you don't get to, we'll give you another try. You don't get to get up again. You're probably dead, or you got someone else killed. You got people killed, and that's on you. Those deaths are your fault. So you have to be disciplined in your actions. You have to. You have to have that level of self-awareness and commitment to yourself. Jocko. Like I said, I love Jocko, but I use the 430 thing, not as a criticism of him, but as an example. When I'm talking about these things, guys, it's the internalization. It's not that you find a person that's a king, or a person that's a warrior, or a person that's a lover, or a person that's a mission. I'm going to copy that guy. Take the quality and start living it out yourself. And he's a very excellent, same thing with Swift. They're very excellent examples of these very pure qualities, ideals. Use all the rep ranges. On the subject of lifting weights, as I find myself coming back to that again, if you want to be physically healthy, fully developed, it's not, since I know I'm going to ask this later, and I know I'm not mad about it, it's not, do you do high reps? It's not, do you do low reps? It's not, okay, you do everything because that's what your body's capable of. Strength endurance builds submaximal endurance, builds maximal endurance. So that means you lift high reps, you lift medium reps, you lift low reps, and you do all the different angles of movement because that's how you get a developed physique. It's not any one thing. You break out of the diametric model where it's mutually exclusive. So cultivating the warrior qualities continued. Like I said, learn violence, find a gym, find a place you can train. Be kind to people, not to just be a simp and be sweet, but be kind because empathy makes you appreciate the potential you have for pain in your life. It does. It's when you see people suffering and you realize that could happen to you, or you suffer and you realize how much you can have your life taken apart, it gives you a perspective on the, how should I say, on the fickleness of fate, to use that phrase. Life can be going well, things can be perfect, and you can have everything taken from you in a day. You can have a child die, you find out your whole marriage is a lie. You can lose your business, you can get hit with a Me Too scandal. I read a terrible story today, a young gentleman who's 16, and his stepsister accused him of sexually abusing her for like 4 or 5 years. He got sent to jail, like his parents left him there to teach him a lesson. And then later on, he kept denying it. And then like 3 months into it, his sister, as it's like going through the court system, finally breaks down and says, you know what, it's all a lie. I've actually been having sex with my boyfriend. And I felt really bad about it. I didn't want you to find out, Mom, Dad, so I accused my stepbrother of raping me multiple times. And his life's already ruined. What's that testament to? Like I said, you're gonna suffer as a man. Pain's gonna happen. Be kind to people. Be kind to each other. I don't know what all of you are going through, but you're all probably going through something like we all have. There's meeting there. So magician. So I put this Peter Thiel, Elon Musk, those guys I think are fairly well known. Modern magician, what is it about magic? You get to create substance out of vapor, so to speak. You're creating things that were not there before. It's very easy to idolize guys who are warriors, playboys. It's very easy to idolize certain qualities that are very apparent. But men that make an impact on the world at large, on a deep level, on a level of subtext, that's men who create. It's not just men who lead, it's men who create. And everyone's obviously not going to be at this level. But like I say here, magic is technology. So there's a level of being a magician where, like I said earlier, you're detail-oriented, you're aspirational, there's ingenuity, there's creativity to this. 99% of the world was invented by men. Everything you see in this room was built by men. Someone had to think this up. They had to come up with these ideas. The design of this glass, there is work that went into this. Same thing with electronics. There were people that there's men that applied their mind power to these problems or to these possibilities, and they made them. They made them, and that didn't exist before. So there is truly substance. There's truly merit and value to being able to use your imagination. And social media kind of takes that from us today. And just the inundation of information we get where we're all the time drowned by all these sources of stimulus. You have to be able to separate yourself from that and be able to sit and think and use your thoughts. And you need to practice creativity. You need to be able to imagine. That's why when you that's why little boys are fun stories. For those of you guys that have kids, they like to have books read to them. They like to see films. Why do they like these things? It's a story, and they get to imagine, and they get to play, and they get to create. And that's being lost, unfortunately. So cultivating magician qualities. One of the first things with this, and this is not about money, but it's about sort of understanding how the world works. You have to be financially independent. For those of you guys who are younger, I made this mistake when I was in my earlier 20s, where I just ran up credit card debt, didn't pay bills. The inability to financially take care and support yourself shows that you don't understand basically how the world works. That you think that you can get something for doing nothing, or you can think that you can continue surviving on the backs of others, or you think that somehow you're always going to be taken care of and you'll get lucky. Or you just don't understand that time is value, or that work is value. Be financially independent. Like I said, I made that mistake when I was younger. Changing my attitude towards money changed my attitude not just to what I made, but I realized it was the attitude I had towards time itself. If you understand that your actions compound and everything you do has consequences, and that you can create things that can surpass the hour in which they're made, you can do some extraordinary things. If you never get that, if that escapes you, then you're always going to be a beast of burden, and you will always be chasing the value of the hour with the dollar. From there, magician qualities, paying attention. So this one, when guys ask, especially with women, the truth reveals itself if you see it clearly. Men have this tendency to want to narrow things down to oftentimes linear or single details when we're first learning something because it gives us an origin point. You have to take account of the whole picture. So you have to be holistic in what you see. All these things, all these qualities I'm talking about as you run through these archetypes, they all integrate together. It's not any one thing that you are any one thing. is that, like I said, you have this within you and it is an aspect of yourself to develop. And whether it leads or whether it's number two, whether it's superior, inferior, it's there. And it's not something that's unknown to you. But you're never going to see that in yourself unless, like I said, you pay attention to it. You have awareness of it. Adam and Eve, obviously, being in the garden. What was the apple? The apple was knowledge. The apple was a woman finally deciding that she knew what she wanted to eat for the first time in history, and look what happened. That's why I always pick the restaurant. Always. Or you make her think it was her idea, but you actually already chose. But what happens when they eat the apple? Well, they're aware that they're naked. They're aware that they're in a place. But what is it? Is it, well, I'm naked? No, it's awareness. It's awareness now that life is finite. It's awareness that we see things now that we didn't see before. Most men today, as I often say, they're very blind. You're very blind to your own nature, and that makes you blind to women. So before you start addressing the femininity struggle that you have been broken by, what is it that you can't see in yourself? What is it that you're trying to see in yourself? What do you perceive? And then last thing, learn actual magic. So I did, when I was in college, I did like a few lessons on like how to do card tricks, which I forgot. Like I said, learning magic is not just for the sake of it. I didn't learn for the sake of entertainment. It was not to entertain, to like, oh, this is gonna be cool. I'm gonna do this at bars and parties. It was the fact that when I practiced it with people, I realized that people's literal belief and literal understanding of the way the world worked, you could manipulate it. That could be manipulated. We all can be manipulated. Your sense of reality, it's malleable. And that magic makes that malleable. Media makes it malleable. You see that all the time in media today. They can gaslight and attach a narrative to anything. They can fabricate something, but people will believe it. So what you see is not fixed. Neither about the world or about yourself. Characteristics of a lover. This is my favorite quote. It's from The Counselor. Cormac McCarthy novel and later movie. The truth about women is that you can treat them however you want, so long as you don't bore them. Women hate boring men. Why? Because they don't make women feel anything. Why do women stay in abusive relationships? And we can go deep down that rabbit hole. Well, a guy who beats you and fucks you, he makes you feel something. And if you have to trade feeling something, feeling nothing, you'll take feeling something. Why do children love abusive parents? Well, because my parent, maybe my dad or my mother, maybe they beat me, maybe they whipped the shit out of me, but you know what? They said they love me too, and I will trade those good things that I felt for those bad things. Women want to feel something. Their whole existence is sophistry. It's based upon feeling. As soon as you become boring, you're disposable. That means you're not worth much to them. That's why women love artists so much. Artists are literally just engines of feeling. That's why the rock star example, Robert Plant, how many women has he slept with in his life? And I'm not saying that's the ideal to follow truly, but how many women? Probably thousands. Because he's up there on a stage and he's singing and everybody's emotions and all those neurological cycles are just firing on all cylinders and he's making people feel something. And women will chase after that because, again, it's that felt experience. Femininity is complementary to a man. Be nothing like a woman and you'll start to understand them. Don't ever, I'm rehashing things that have already been said by men better than me, but relating to women doesn't make them want you nor like you. You always want to create contrast. It goes back to feeling state. Polarity provides experience. Sameness is familiarity, is comfort, is contempt. That's not the route you ever want to take. So this is Roberto Bolle. I'm a ballet dancer. He's probably one of the best in the world. People always ask me, like, why would you do ballet? That's not like that. I always ask me, is that gay? Is that like a gay thing? I'm like, look at me and tell me what you think. I don't give a fuck. I saw ballet when I was 16, and the women, they were beautiful. It was absolutely pure femininity. Ballet is based upon beauty. It is an idolized form of femininity. It is beauty. It is beauty, and that's all it is. It's not about necessarily even the story. It's not about, it's the range of emotions. Is that you can watch a woman at the absolute peak of femininity, and she moves in this pure refinement and pure grace. In ballet, you are chasing a perfect ideal, and you will never reach it. And every person that does it knows that. And I saw it for the first time, and the girls were stunningly beautiful, and the ratio was about 100 women to one heterosexual guy. I'm like, I like my odds here. I like my odds. So I got into ballet. And then the funny thing is in ballet, it's female dominated. The patriarchy is just built into ballet because all the great choreographers are men. And all the ballets that girls love to do, they all want to be princesses. They all want to play the role of damsel in distress. And every single ballet that you'll ever do where you're partnering, it looks like this. So, someone's going to frame, role of body language. Who's leading the situation? Is it her or him? It's always like this. It's always like this, and there's always that rapturous moment when she's literally in your arms, and that's what women want. It's the man that leads. Artist lover. So I've been hitting on this. Women love artists because they'll see aspects and parts of women that she herself cannot see and are unknown to her. So there's this female fantasy, so to speak, that aside from a man, blowing your mind sexually, he has all these things for you. What's the real meta subtext? He's expanding what you thought life was. Pablo Neruda was not an attractive man. He looks like a Mexican grandfather. He routinely hooked up with women that were 30 years his junior his entire life. Why? He was an artist. Well, that's attractive. And whether you like his art or not, it was highly appealing because in going and posing for a nude and sitting with him, somehow maybe he's going to tell me something about myself that I didn't even know. He's going to add on to my personality. That's compelling. That's when we talk about, you want to talk about seduction, that's deeply seductive. Like again, if I fucking look at him, like he's overweight here. She's probably let's say she's 40. He's at least 70 in this picture. This is one of the women that had an affair with him and cheated on her husband with him. That doesn't logically make sense, but he's an artist. Then it makes sense. So cultivating these qualities, some of these basic things that I have to say because Jesus, outer world gentlemen, financial success, obviously that's always compelling because it shows that you can take care of yourself. Dress better, thank you Tanner. I'm insecure about my shoes now because of you, wherever you are. But no, the shoes, I've been busting people up on Twitter lately with shoes. What it makes you realize when you dress better, and I mean this sincerely, because I always relied upon my looks to get women my whole life. I'm tall, I go like this, walk in somewhere. Obviously it worked, but as soon as I started dressing better, women noticed those details. They're like, oh my God, I really love your shoes. I really love, that shirt fits great. I like your whole outfit, wow. I would start getting open. I got way more opens where women would just approach me more than they already did. I was like, wow, that really works. That really, really works. Dress better. Dress better. Be interesting. Again, that goes back to feeling. And then inner world, your mental origin point. One of the things you read Casanova's biography, he screwed up so many people's lives so many times, he never gave a shit. He just kind of it's like he'd go into a situation. So half the time he tried to get the girl that he seduced married to somebody else. He's like, I know I just slept with you for 5 weeks and I got bored with you, but let's find you a husband so I can go screw another 18-year-old in St. Petersburg, because that's what I feel like doing. Mental origin point, the outcome independence. You have to not care how situation goes. Game is not something I dive into, typically, but since we're on the subject. When you are in a scenario with any kind of woman and she thinks that you want something from her and she gets the feeling, then she starts running it. When women know that they're disposable to you and that you're simply enjoying the process of being with them, that's when they'll love you. That's how that goes. Again, that's the difference between alpha and a beta. An alpha has an abundance mindset towards women. A beta is always in a place of supplication. He takes what he can get. If you can reverse, and that's mental, that's not physical. Guys, too many guys like to get on the subject, well, you're tall, motherfucker. Shut the fuck up. Okay, it's not about being tall. It's not about how much money you make. You could be dirt poor, living in a fucking van. Okay, you could be out of prison. Okay, you could literally be out of jail and be sleeping at your mom's house, and women will want to sleep with you if you have that mindset of abundance. If you lead yourself in, like I said, you present yourself in that way, or you are that way, I should say. The question I always pose to people, is she with you or are you with her? She should be with you, not the other one. Life is a confidence game. Confidence is confidence. You have to, it goes back to believing yourself. If you're going to be these qualities, you have to live them out and you have to internalize them. And then on the subject of humor, which this could probably be a whole talk into itself, being humorous, it's observancy. It means that you pay attention to things and that you understand people. People that are, let's say, autistic with other human beings where they lack understanding of human behavior, they're typically not funny. And if they are, it's purely by accident. When you can be humorous on purpose, or you can crack jokes on purpose and you show a lack of seriousness, you don't take yourself too seriously, you make fun of her, you make fun of yourself, you make fun of the situation, whatever the case may be. What is it? It's perception. It's perception, it's understanding of human nature. Yeah, that's why comedians, despite oftentimes being gross guys, they have groupies too. Why? Because they make, again, feeling, and they make them laugh, and also it shows somebody, wow, he made me see things and feel things and see the humor in things I didn't see before. Women on a certain level, they're like children. They don't want life to be too serious. So if you can take a scenario and create humor in it, again, that's compelling, that's attractive. So last slide, and then we'll go into questions. Gospel of Thomas, this is probably my favorite quote, if I was to say a favorite quote. If you bring out what is within you, then what is within you will create you. If you do not bring out what is within you, then what is within you will destroy you. Meaning what? Meaning you have these things in you. You have leadership in you. You have magic in you. You have strength in you. You have the capacity to be alluring and compelling and attraction in you. That has to come out of yourself. That means that you take it, you define that into your own story, and then you live that out. It's not yours to borrow from somebody else. It's not me to give to you and say, here's the prescription. That's in you. So that's going to be your journey of self-exploration, self-discovery, self-development. If you can do that and you can attach a vein of artistry to it, since artistry is a quality of life that makes things unique, then you'll be a man that you can be proud of. You can be proud today, you can be proud tomorrow, you'll be able to die and you'll be able to say, I did something with myself, and who I became is somebody that if I had a son, he could look up to. You'll do that. If you don't do that, it will destroy you. And I've seen it happen to men. I've seen it. I've seen it. So for everything that you are deficient in, for everything you fear, for everything that you wish you were, that you don't fulfill, you will either hate it, you'll try to destroy it in another man, which is really common with male insecurity, or you'll take that part of the world and you'll pretend it doesn't exist. You'll want to declare that thing stupid and pointless, and how could anyone be that way, and I would never be that way, and you'll be miserable for it. So the projection of what is within you and what you leave lacking, that poisons the whole well of your whole existence, the rest of your life. And if you've ever met anybody that's bitter, you know what that looks like. Because bitterness is all pervasive. It takes over your soul. So that's it. Questions?
Hey there, thanks. My name's Greg.
What's up, Greg?
I wanted to know, on that road of self-discovery, what was the best guidance that you found? Like, what helped you find those things that are within you so you don't self-destruct?
That's a good question. So the turning, there are two things that I don't know if say red-pilled me. One, I had a mom who was honestly a very red-pill woman. My whole childhood growing up, I never had any illusions about women that way. I remember being like in middle school, like 11 years old. I'm like, I like this girl, Mom. She's like, oh, okay, that's cool. I'm like, and I somehow I probably went on about her. I'm like, she's really pretty, blah, blah. She's like, honey, she shits and pisses and farts like everybody else. Women aren't special. It's like my mother telling me that. I'm like, shit, okay. I'm like, I kind of knocked off the pedestal that way, femininity. But the seminal turning point. So I was 19. I was in jail for 2 months. In McGuire County Correctional Facility. I was arrested for grand theft, which I did willfully, and I totally stole shit. And I didn't feel bad about it because I didn't. I'm not going to lie about that. I felt bad about the effects and consequences afterwards, but I didn't feel bad doing it. It was fun. But I'm in jail, and I'm sitting there. I'm in a cell. I'm in a cell block with like 11 other guys, so there's 12 of us. And there's varying degrees of convicts and incarcerations. And some guys had been in and out there for 30 years, their whole life. Some guys, they had their sons in there at the same time. And that showed me that everything that you believe in and do has a consequence. So I realized I had a path before myself. I could go the route of who I was at that state, and that probably was not going to go somewhere that was going to be good. Or I could change what is within myself. But in changing yourself, you have to believe these things already in you. I don't believe in the idea that you can take an external quality and then, okay, I'm going to adopt it. There's no adoption. It's either in you or it's not. And there's a level of zealous, unwavering self-belief of faith you have to adopt with that. You have faith that you can do this because it is who you are, or it's not. So which one will it be? That was the turning point, which I can't assign that to anybody. It's like, go get yourself arrested and incarcerated, since that's not good. But obviously. But hopefully there's something that in every man's life where you see those two pathways before you, and it's either this one or that one. It's a pivot point decision. What will you become? Okay, did I answer the question?
That was perfect.
Okay, cool. I tend to go on tangents, so if I don't answer the question, just remind me what the question was.
Yeah, quick question. You kind of touched on it in your talk about strength training, like progressive overload versus high rep pump training. I just found out that I have low T, so that's why I've been having a tough time losing weight. But would you recommend like focusing on, because I can lift like pretty heavy, like I've made some good PRs. So should I focus on like burning fat first and then get back to the strength, or do both and just do a slow, bloody body recomp? Or?
That can actually be done simultaneously. So if I was to give you a program right now, here's a program, everybody. Do one lift for maximal strength. Do 2 movements for moderate reps. Do 2 movements for high reps. That gives you a very complete workout. It will be challenging, but the high repetition metabolic stuff, it's not just that, it's endurance. It changes how your body processes sugar. So it changes your usage of glucose, improves sensitivity. It also has positive effects on growth hormone as well. That's a big positive effect. And also overall, just that strength training that way gives you that complete sort of holistic stimulus where if you're going to get any kind of testosterone boost from training, it will be from it that way. And the thing is too, it's TRT, we can talk about this another time, or testosterone, trying to elevate. If you're hypogonadal and you're trying to do these natural things and it's not going up, that's when replacement therapy would come an option. But generally speaking, for guys that are young and decent health from good genetic stock, you can usually elevate your testosterone pretty good through natural means. If you can't, then that's where you start having to research that route, which if you want to talk about later, we totally can.
So do all those in one workout or like break them up into
so if I bench, so pressing workout, so you're going to train chest shoulders, to be an example. Incline bench press for 5x5, seated dumbbell press for 4 sets of 8, low incline dumbbell press for 4 sets of 8, dips 3 sets to failure, push-ups 3 sets to failure.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Nice.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. So you mentioned earlier about like the whole idea of like, women loving bad boys, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then later on, you kind of mentioned about, be kind. Can you talk a little bit about like how those two go hand in hand and how you can kind of get a balance of both of those things?
Well, so here's the thing. What's the bad boy stereotype? This guy, like I've said before, he leads himself. Oftentimes it's a rebel persona. When you talk about being a bad boy in the context of a relationship, women aren't in relationships with bad boys truly. He's in a relationship with them, and they usually know it. I haven't always treated women that great myself at times, but I got what I wanted from them. There is a certain level of awareness where like, okay, this isn't going to last, but I'm going to enjoy it for the duration that it does. On a certain sensibility, what else is appealing? It's the fact that the guy, if he's a big jerk to everybody else, and or maybe he's a guy where he like women will know like, oh, he fucks everything, but wow, he's showing interest in me. Then the fact that he's still seeing other women, or the fact that he's a shitty boyfriend, they're fine with it, because again, there's always that desire, within sort of that, both the hindbrain and the mammalian brain, that maybe I can tame the beast. Does that mean that you treat a girl like shit? No, I'm not saying to do that. But there's a certain, there's a fine line that men will find out, unfortunately, when they go from being like Roll talks about the external alpha that has all the qualities, but then he gets into a relationship and he turns into a bitch. And then all things that the woman was drawn to in him, now that he's with her and he's committed, well, now he's just, he's gone from beta. He's gone from alpha to beta. So maintaining that kind of mindset, if that's a question, that you have to have a sense of your own masculinity, honestly. And a guy that does this naturally, he doesn't really think about this. He just, if she's with me, you're along for the ride, cool. It's the struggle where you're trying to take it from consciousness to instinct, where that's where the friction lies.
Thanks.
No problem.
In your experience, can a woman become jealous of a man over the course of a relationship, and how do you delineate her jealousy from her crave of your attention?
Can she become just jealous of the man in like what sense? Just jealous?
Let's say you're dating your alpha equivalent as a female, but you may have your hands in career, passions, hobbies, and she says that, I feel like I should be doing more. And then you notice that she starts to give you backlash for pursuing your passions.
So with that, with typically with women, there's always going to be an insecurity level. What women like, obviously hypergamy, they're going to try to date up. If you start being too up for them, that insecurity will pop up pretty readily. So yeah, if it's, to use like a numerical example, if let's say the girl's an 8 and you're an 8, and then you go from 8 to 9, and then you go from 9 to 10, but she's still an 8. Is she going to still be able to maintain your interest and hold on to you? And at the same time too, as well, there's always going to be that female drive where she wants you to subsume your passion and your mission into being about her. Even if it sabotages the dynamic and then she's no longer attracted to you when you do, that still is going to be there. The more attention you give women, the more they're going to expect. So the jealousy factor, it could be that maybe you're ascending and she feels like she's static. That could be a factor too as well. It could be, or maybe it's not even that. This is very, that'd be very case by case. Maybe it's a factor where she has very much been ingrained with what I literally deem like the blue pill female mentality, where she's the chick trying to have it all, and she feels like she's in competition with you. Maybe she feels that way, where she has to compete with her man. And then that's creating the tensions and the issues in the relationship. So, I know that's not really like an answer, but that could be multiple things, and it could be all those things wrapped up at once.
Right.
It's going to be very case by case.
Sounds good. Thanks.
No problem.
That's all the time we have. Guys, give it up for Alexander Cortes.
Thank you, gentlemen.